Valentine's Day is right around the corner, and today I'm going to show you guys how to make this really festive cake that is totally perfect for the holidays and looks like it came from a fancy French patisserie, but you can make it right at home. This chubby heart is a strawberry and cream cake that consists of a super soft and bouncy sponge, a fresh strawberry compote, and an airy white mousse. So if you want to learn how to make this cake, keep watching. First things first, we are going to start with our extra soft sponge. We are going to place 96 grams or 3 large egg whites in the bowl of your stand mixer. Save those egg yolks because we're going to use them for our mousse later. And once it starts to get frothy, sprinkle in 2 tablespoons of sugar, then allow that to whip to medium peaks. Once you've reached medium peaks, place this meringue in a separate bowl and set it aside. Now in that same bowl, you don't have to wash it, yay. Place 150 grams or 3 large eggs in your bowl with 38 grams or 3 tablespoons of sugar and whip that until the eggs are blanched or thick and pale. Once your eggs look like this, remove it off the mixer and gently fold in that meringue that we just made. Now we are going to sift in 125 grams or 1 cup of all-purpose flour and gently fold this in. Now when you're baking cakes or cookies, there are 2 different types of leavening agents, chemical and physical leaveners. Chemical being things like baking soda and baking powder, which produce carbon dioxide to inflate your cakes or cookies in the oven. And physical leavening being things like air or steam, which is what we're using in this method. By incorporating all of that air into the eggs, we've trapped tiny little air bubbles into the sponge that cause expansion. So it's very important that when we're adding in the remainder of our ingredients, we don't knock out all of that air we've trapped into the eggs, which would make our cake flat and not extra soft and extra bouncy. So be extra careful in these next few steps. After you've folded in the flour, we're going to add in 85 grams or 6 tablespoons of melted butter and 30 grams or 2 tablespoons of milk and fold. The butter and the milk in this recipe is going to keep the cake really moist. Now our sponge is done and we can spread it onto a small tray that has been well oiled and lined with parchment paper. This is another step where you can potentially knock out a lot of that air. So be gentle and try to spread this out in as few movements as you can. Then this is going to bake at 325 Fahrenheit for 10 to 12 minutes. You'll know this cake is done when it bounces back when you gently press on the surface or when a toothpick comes out clean. Don't go by the appearance for this one because this cake remains pale even after it's thoroughly cooked. There's little to no caramelization on the surface. Now let's move on to our compote. We're going to take 72 grams or half a cup of strawberries and measure that out twice because one is going to be pureed and one is going to be cubed. So we are going to cube 1/2 of the strawberries, and for the second half, you can just chop it roughly. Then we're going to place the roughly chopped strawberries in a pot and begin to gently heat it up with 12 grams or 1 tablespoon of sugar, 20 grams or 1 tablespoon of corn syrup, and the juice of half a lemon. Allow this to cook until the strawberries soften and begin to break apart. This should take about 2 to 3 minutes after it comes to a boil. Then I'm going to blend this with an immersion blender and let it reduce on a simmer for 1 minute. Finally, take this off of the heat and add in 4 grams or 2 sheets of bloomed gelatin and stir to dissolve. Now we can pour our puree over our cubed strawberries and stir it to combine everything. We need to let this set up in our desired shape. So I'm going to take a ring cutter and wrap the base of it in saran wrap so that it doesn't leak out. Then I'm going to pour our strawberry compote into the mold and place this in the freezer to set up. Now let's move on to our mousse. You're going to place 135 grams or half a cup and 1 tablespoon of milk in a pot with 76 grams or a 1/4 cup of condensed milk, and 50 grams or 4 tablespoons of sugar and gently bring that to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, pour this over those 3 egg yolks we reserved from our sponge and whisk it to gently bring the temperature up. Then we're going to pour this back into the pot and whisk it vigorously over low heat until the mixture becomes really airy and frothy like this. Remove this off the heat and whisk in 12 grams or 4 sheets of bloomed gelatin, and then set this aside to cool slightly so that it's not super hot. While this is cooling, we are going to whip 360 grams or 1.5 cups of heavy cream to medium peaks. Then we can add some of our whipped cream into the milk base. This will be our sacrifice cream to help lighten the milk base. So give that a little whisk and then switch to a spatula to fold in the remainder of our cream. Now this mousse will be a little bit runny or loose. I made it this way so that when we pipe it into our mold, it fills that mold out really nicely without getting any air pockets. So transfer your mousse into a piping bag and we can assemble our cake. I'm going to unmold our strawberry compote by gently running a knife along the edge, and it should come out pretty easily. Then using that same ring cutter, I'm going to cut out a piece of our sponge cake. For the assembly, I'm going to fill our mold up a little bit more than halfway, then drop in our compote. Don't push it down, just let it sink a bit on its own. Cover the compote with more mousse, and finally add in the sponge cake. I'm also cutting out 2 additional small pieces to puzzle together a makeshift heart shape and push that so it sits flush with the mold. If any mousse spills out like it did here, just clean up the edges. And right before we set this into the freezer, I'm gonna brush the base of the cake with a simple syrup, which is just equal parts sugar and water, and bring that to a boil. This will keep our cake extra moist, and then just place that in the freezer until it is frozen solid. Once the cake is frozen, we can unmold it and we are ready to glaze it. Here I'm just setting up for my usual glazing station where I wrap a sheet tray in saran wrap and then place a bowl upside down for a really easy cleanup. This is the same exact neutral glaze recipe from my raspberry and pistachio entremet, which I will link here. The only difference is that I added 2 drops of pink coloring instead of a lot of drops of red coloring. So you want to use your glaze when it is still fluid but cool to the touch, and you can pour your glaze over your cake. This is the most satisfying part to watch. Then allow all of the excess to drip off. You can give the tray a few taps to help encourage the glaze to move, but for the most part, you can just let gravity do its thing here. And we can transfer this to our serving dish. This cake is so cute and festive on its own that it just doesn't need much decoration. So I'm just placing some crunchy pearls on the base for a little additional texture and a little bit of gold leaf, and we are ready to dig in.
Ever since the day that you went away, you've been sending flowers, flowers to me, flowers today, flowers today. Instead of sending flowers, come back to me and hold me in your arms again. Flowers, flowers to me, flowers today, flowers today. Instead of sending flowers, come back to me and hold me in your arms. Sending flowers to me, send me no flowers today. Instead of sending flowers, come back to me and hold me in your arms again. You've been sending flowers to me, send me no flowers today. Instead of sending flowers, come back to me and hold me in your arms again.
Okay, you guys, that is it for today's recipe. This cake is so stunning and so simple, and you guys know the simplest desserts are the best ones. You cannot go wrong with strawberries and cream, and this sponge reminds me of those bouncy, airy, cloud-like Japanese roll cakes. It's the best texture to have in your mouth. It's just so soft and squishy. The compote adds an element of freshness and acidity, and the mousse is really delicate and airy and creamy. Plus, the cake is just so freaking cute to look at. Can you guys please comment down below some other recipes that you guys would like me to make using this mold so that I can have an excuse to use it again because it is so freaking cute. So that is it for today's recipe. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You guys should also follow me on Instagram, and I just recently made a TikTok which has been a lot of fun. So follow me on there, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye. Say no more.
Smash the like and subscribe button and comment down below what you want me to do on Skyblock.